Welcome back to the Rory Talks Football YouTube channel. Welcome back to the Arsenal transfer room. It is a Saturday. It is the weekend. I hope you're enjoying it. And there is plenty of Arsenal news to talk about. Some good, some bad, some slightly worrying. So we're going to get into it. We've got Rodrygo, Madueke, Eze, Nwaneri. That's slightly worrying. Before we do that, though, please could I just ask you to subscribe? We are now less than 100 subscribers away from 20,000 subscribers, which would be an incredible milestone to hit. And if you could click the like button, the thumbs up button, it's free. It massively helps me out. Also, if I sound a bit hoarse, I apologize. It was a late night with one too many beers, to be honest with you. But without further ado, let's get into it. And we're starting with this. Madueke agrees. But what does he agree to? Well, he agrees to Arsenal. Nwaneri Madueke agrees personal terms with Arsenal as they consider approaching Chelsea for the England international. Arsenal have the 23-year-old's green light and strong relations with Chelsea, but no club-to-club talks yet. Firm option to bolster on both wings. So that came from David Ornstein. It was followed up by Fabrizio Romano, who said the agreement on personal terms is ready and done, with parties advancing on details this morning. Madueke said yes to Mikel Arteta's project. Club-to-club talks will start in the upcoming days. And look, there's a lot of anger and frustration among the Arsenal fan base in regards to this, which is fairly standard practice. But I think it's one of those where if this deal goes through, and there's no guarantee that it does, right? This is still only personal terms, nothing in terms of an agreement with Chelsea. If it goes through, I still feel like you have to wait until the end of the transfer window to properly judge it. Now, I would also be interested to see what the fee is. It's been reported previously it could be upwards of 45, 50 million, which I do think is quite a lot for him. But if that is, an additional attacking player on top of Eze, Rodrygo, Sesko, then I really don't mind it at all. If he is coming in to be a backup for Bukayo Saka, that's decent. That's a very, very good level of player to be a backup for Bukayo Saka. And I wouldn't massively complain if we brought him in as long as the other business got done. Now, he's 23 years old, turned 23 in March, obviously left-footed, 7 goals, 3 assists in the Premier League last season. Not bad. I think he got 11 goals, 4 assists in all competitions. And he's on 50 grand a week. Now, apparently, this is what Capology says. Now, I don't know how reliable that is. 50 grand a week on a 6-year contract. Now, Chelsea do long contracts on lower wages. It says there are no bonuses. I think there must be. But that could be one of the reasons that he is open to a move to Arsenal. Now, if we were to put him on, 120, 130 grand a week as a backup to Bukayo Saka, I think that is fair. Is he the best option that we could go for? I'm not convinced he is. And there is a scenario where I saw today that Chelsea could be preparing to bid for Mohamed Kudus. Now, if us buying Madueke enabled them to fund the move for Mohamed Kudus, part of me just thinks, well, why don't we just go for Mohamed Kudus? Because he is also left-footed, obviously can play off the right wing, but actually I think is more versatile than Nwaneri Madueke, and I actually think is a better player than Nwaneri Madueke. So I'd kind of rather we just did that, but maybe he is too expensive for what we're trying to do, in the same way that I think Brian Mbeumo was, because ultimately if you're bringing this player in to be a backup for Bukayo Saka, you can't go and drop 70, 80 million pounds on them. So let me know your thoughts in the comments on Madueke. Like I said, I understand the frustration. Of course, it's also got the Chelsea connection to it, and we are relentlessly buying players from Chelsea, it seems. But overall, I think he's, you talk Premier League proven. We could do worse. Now, this is where it could get really bad. And this is where Arsenal fans are melting down a little bit today. Because on top of the news about Madueke, Fabrizio Romano said this: Chelsea have been showing interest in Ethan Nwaneri's situation only in case a new deal won't be sealed with Arsenal. Nwaneri and Arsenal in talks over a new deal, while the player wants game time guaranteed. Now, I'm not panicking yet. I think that this is very standard, in the same way that when Miles Lewis-Skelly's contract was getting negotiated, there were the links to Real Madrid that came out. The agent leaking this as a way to get Nwaneri more money, I think, because there's a few things within this that I just don't think make sense. Now, firstly, Nwaneri wanting game time guaranteed, I think, is fair. But a lot of the reaction to that from Arsenal fans has been a suggestion that Nwaneri hasn't had enough game time. And if we lose Nwaneri, it will be Arteta's fault and the club's fault for not playing Nwaneri enough. And that fundamentally, I just don't think is true. This tweet from Adam a while ago, this season, Nwaneri played 37 games for Arsenal, clocking 1,378 minutes. The only players from top 6 clubs aged 21 or under with more minutes were Miles Lewis-Skelly, Lewis Hall, Rico Lewis, and Connor Bradley. And Nwaneri is 2 or 3 years younger than Lewis Hall, Rico Lewis, and Connor Bradley. It's only Miles Lewis-Skelly that is younger. And that in itself is the point. This idea that Arsenal don't trust our young players enough. We literally had the proof in the pudding this season with a 17-year-old Nwaneri and an 18-year-old Miles Lewis-Skelly both picking up a huge number of minutes. So I don't really get where that's coming from. And towards the end of the season, Nwaneri played fewer and fewer minutes. To all intents and purposes, it looked like he was burning out. It looked like he was struggling with the physicality. That was alluded to by the club. And the same people that will get angry about this will also slam the club for running Bukayo Saka into the ground when he was young. It's like, but now you want a 17-year-old to be playing, 3,000 minutes in his first proper senior season. It's you can't have both. And when it comes to Chelsea, and this is why I'm not really worried, right? If Ethan Nwaneri's biggest concern about game time, if his biggest concern is about game time, why on earth would he go to Chelsea? Just bring up this. Amari Hutchinson, how did it go? How did it go when you went to Chelsea to get minutes? You played twice, and now you're at Ipswich. So I don't get it. Chelsea have got 400 attacking players. They've just announced Gittins. Supposedly they're going for Kudus. All right, we might take Madueke off them. They've still got Jackson, Delap, Esteval that's coming. Quender's coming in next summer. It's a constant conveyor belt. Pedro Neto. So that fundamentally for me doesn't make sense. And that's why I'm not really buying too much into the story. But that won't stop plenty of Arsenal fans completely losing their head over the matter. Rodrygo wants us. Now, this is where the video livens up. This is the positive, fun news that we want to hear. This came from Hand of Arsenal today. Now, for those of you yet to trust Hand of Arsenal, he is now getting co-signed by Fabrizio Romano, David Ornstein. He's beating them to the news. Like, he is on a different level. And he said this today. Intermediaries with direct mandate from Saudi clubs have been told in no uncertain terms that Rodrygo's preference is to move to the Premier League, with Arsenal his absolute priority in case a deal can be struck with Real Madrid. So what does that first bit mean, the intermediaries with the direct mandate from Saudi clubs? That means people that have been directed to work on behalf of the Saudi clubs to make signings have been told Rodrygo's probably not going to move to Saudi because he wants the Premier League and he wants Arsenal. And at this stage, I mean, obviously, if you've been watching this channel for a while, you'll know how much I want Rodrygo, how important I think that signing is. And I just think we have to get it done. If he wants Arsenal, if this is true and he wants Arsenal, there is no excuse for us not to get it done. John Cross saying today Arsenal will have to pay well in excess of 70 million to sign Rodrygo, and that possible competition from Bayern Munich and PSG could further increase the price. Now, it has been reported, generally speaking, that 80 million euros, Mark has said 80 million euros is what he's going to be sold for this summer if he is sold. Now, that's 70 million pounds there or thereabouts. I think that's incredible value. When I'm seeing that Newcastle United are preparing a 55 million pound bid for Anthony Elanga. For 15 million more, you can get Rodrygo. Now, of course, wages come into it, and Rodrygo will demand high wages. But 70 million quid, I just think is you can't turn it down. You can't turn it down. And I do think he's going to move. So all of these things together, 23 minutes in his last 3 games at the Club World Cup. We went into the summer, and it wasn't even about him getting minutes at the Club World Cup. It was about actually, I want minutes and I want them off the left. Well, forget about that. You're not getting minutes off the left. You're not getting minutes off the right. You're an unused sub in 2 of the last 3 games. And that's without Mustanto Ono having come in yet, who they've just bought as a right winger. So, I mean, there is no doubt in my mind that he is going to look to leave Real Madrid this summer. And when he looks to leave Real Madrid this summer, Arsenal are reportedly the priority. And the fee is not going to be too bad. So it's just all of that combined, we have to get it done. And I'm certain he tears it up in the Premier League. What he will offer us off that left-hand side, it's so exciting. I think it's so exciting what he could do. Moving on to the fourth and final bit of news, the latest on Eze. Now, this came from a podcast that David Ornstein was on today with The Athletic. He said this: Arsenal are exploring a deal for Eberechi Eze as things stand. They've held some conversations, not club to club so far. It's more with the players' side of things, which is how we've been operating across the board, is personal terms and then going to the clubs. It would be as a potential attacking addition. It's not like they would be looking at him and not a left winger or not a striker. It's an additional thing. I'm not saying it's going to happen, and I'm not saying that it's advanced. He went on to say, Arsenal, I think, wouldn't want to be going as high as the release clause if they proceed with this. I'm sure Crystal Palace would like to see the release clause met if they're going to lose their player. Eze's release clause is timed, so it has to be hit within a certain period. Otherwise, it's not active, and you have to negotiate like normal. We're not at that point yet. It's something that may develop, but it's in a relatively embryonic stage right now. That's a new phrase for you. We're in the embryonic stage of this transfer, folks. It's so exciting. I mean, but this is what I'm saying, right? When we have to wait and see how the actual whole transfer window pans out. Because if somehow we pulled off Rodrygo, Eze, a striker, and then you've got Madueke on top of that, that's insane. That's an unbelievable window. That is unbelievable. We'd also have to sell at that point, surely. Not even just... I feel like you'd have to start looking at selling Trossard and Martinelli. Nah, would you? Would you have enough cover on the left? Maybe not. But either way, one of them would definitely have to go. And it would be an overhaul of our attack. Presumably Jesus comes back, but we move him on next summer, or maybe he's even out of contract next summer. But I do think that we are looking to refresh our attack at this point. And obviously, you're not going to move on from Saka. Same with Kai Havertz. But outside of that, it does feel like we need that as well. Some of the football last season did get a bit stale. The liveliness that these players would bring, especially Eze, Rodrygo, I just think it's really exciting. So look, that is the news for today. There won't be a live stream tomorrow. Actually, I'm watching cricket. So we'll probably be back properly on Monday. There might be a video tomorrow. But other than that, I hope you've enjoyed. Apologies that I feel horrific, to be quite honest with you. I am extraordinarily hungover, so I'm just glad I've got through that video. Like, subscribe, and have a fantastic Saturday evening, whatever you're doing. And I'll catch you on the next one. Until then, goodbye.